Well, the Mystics cooked the Indiana Fever in last night's game, 83-77. This was a hard one, guys. This was a hard one to watch because the Mystics are a rookie team. They're a very young team. They're the youngest team in the league. And yes, Caitlin Clark was out, but honestly, I don't know how the score was so close because the Mystics were just like cooking the Indiana Fever. And listen, the Mystics are a very good team. They are a little streaky because they're so young, but the ceiling of this team is so high. I think they are like the best new team in the league. And this is the issue I think that Indiana is facing is that you just don't know what they're doing. Like they don't really have an identity right now. And I think it seemed like this was a team that should have been playing in training camp. And there is only a short amount of time in training camp for the WNBA because of the way the schedules work out, because NCAA ends and literally right away training camp begins, and because these schedules for other sports like interfere, especially the NBA. So there's not a lot that the WNBA can do about extending training camp. And this is like so important to note because the Indiana Fever were a very new team, like mostly new faces. More than half of the roster are new faces. So there has to be time to come together and develop an identity. And that identity was around Caitlin Clark. All these new players were like learning the Caitlin Clark. They were like running the offense through her, learning the system. And I don't think anybody anticipated that Caitlin Clark, who has never gone out in a professional game, never been out for a collegiate game, like the last time she was out was in high school with a sprained ankle. So this was a big blow to the coaching. This was a big blow to the team who was just learning like this like Caitlin Clark system. And they were spoiled by these passes by Caitlin Clark's like court vision. I've been writing about this, so I've been looking into it, but like there is no other playmaker better than Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. And like, I don't know if there ever has been. And like, that is great. But that also kind of sucks if you're the team that is missing her. So this to me looked like a scrimmage game that a new team coming together without their like star playmaker was learning how to get to know each other and how to play with each other like from scratch. This does not let them off the hook though, because again, these are veteran WNBA players. These are players that have been in the league for years. They didn't play their rookie. I mean, if you can consider the last 22 seconds of the game playing their rookie, but they had no rookies up against 3 rookies. So I don't think that there's really much of an excuse for them to be getting cooked like that. I said this before, but an Aaliyah Boston, like she looks like an elite big in this league, but without Caitlin Clark, she took 5 shots. 5 shots. This is an Aaliyah Boston who scored 27 points in the previous game. And, like I saw in that game, it was Caitlin Clark who fed her the ball to get all those points. They have an elite chemistry, and I know that is going to go down. And I saw Sid Colson like looking for her. But the thing about Sid Colson is that her passes are way too predictable. And I don't exactly understand why Sid Colson got so many minutes. That was very confusing. Stephanie White is attempting to create like a non-predictable offense, defense, like just anything that might not appear on another team's scouting report, because Caitlin Clark is the #1 scouted player, I'm assuming, in the league. You can't just run the same thing and not expect like these, elite WNBA teams to like catch on. So there has to be like a balance of leaning very heavily on Caitlin Clark's style, but also like peppering in a little bit of like, you can't see me coming. But what I saw last night was just sloppy. Like it wasn't fluid. They're trying to run a motion offense and it just isn't really flowing. Kelsey Mitchell's shots weren't falling. She went 4 for 16. She even mentioned in the post-game interview, she couldn't hit a rock in the ocean.
I won't speak for self, but I just couldn't hit a rock in the ocean today. But I do think, going to these games, we have to have a scheme offensively and defensively, and I just think that we were poor at it tonight.
Sophie Cunningham, she said that it was like a gut punch, but let's just listen to a little bit about what Sophie Cunningham had to say about playing without Caitlin Clark.
The offense obviously needs adjustment without Caitlin. Just what differences did you guys see kind of playing live without her tonight?
Yeah, I think with and without her, it's a new system, a lot of new players. We can keep saying that, but at some point we have to turn the page, right? We gotta be able to slow down, to click, to see the mismatches, and so I think this was a kind of gut punch for us. We're gonna come back tomorrow practice, more focus, more energy. We know we want to be at the end of the season, but we're not just going to get there. Sometimes it sucks and it's a grind, and that's where we're at right now. But I do think short term and long term, it's going to make us better.
I know there is validity to that. Again, they were learning Caitlin Clark's system. They didn't have their, key playmaker on the floor. And Kelsey Mitchell also said it was like a punch in the face. I mean, they didn't have any fast break points, like none whatsoever. And I get it, that's what Caitlin Clark does best. But, I think a team comprised of professional athletes who have been in the league for so long, that shouldn't be the case. And these rookies, they were cooking the Indiana Fever. Kiki Iriafen, she is excelling. She is doing better than she was doing over at USC next to Juju Watkins. The Mystics scored 48 points in the paint against the Indiana Fever, and Kelsey Mitchell mentioned in the post-game presser, any team that does that to you is definitely going to win. Just looking at their shot percentages, Lexi Hull went 3 for 8. I mean, she did go 2 for 3 at the 3. Natasha Howard was 5 for 10. I mean, that's not bad. And she went 1 for 2 at the 3. I did notice that Natasha Howard was best when she was battling through the paint and scoring that way, as opposed because her jumpers weren't really falling as well. Aaliyah Boston, she went 4 for 5 in the field. She didn't take any 3-point shots, but again, Aaliyah Boston needs to get more touches. And that is something that I think the Indiana Fever are going to have to focus on in these next few games without Caitlin Clark. Sid Colson, she went from being DMP, do not play, to having more minutes than Aaliyah Boston. She had 30 minutes. Aaliyah Boston had 28 minutes. This is definitely a Coach Stephanie White thing. She needs to not be putting Sid Colson in for that long. DeWanna Bonner got out of her shooting slump. She did keep doing a few things that kind of aggravated me, but you know what? She had a much better game. She came away with 21 points, but saying that, she was still -7 on the court. Sophie Cunningham, her shots just weren't falling. And this is what I'm saying, when it comes to, there are some things that are excusable and there are some things that are not excusable. And Sophie Cunningham going 0 for 3 in the field and going 0 for 2 in behind the arc, that's not excusable. And I swear, I thought this was the game. They were going to try Michaela Timpson out. I mean, there is no better game than to try her out against the rookies that she was in the graduating class of. And somehow in the last 22 seconds of the game, Stephanie White decided to put Michaela Timpson in. I don't know what the theory behind that was, because it's not as if that was going to get her any, experience or playing time on the court. I really don't understand her decision to put her in the last 22 seconds. But funny enough, as far as plus minuses go, Michaela Timpson was a +4 on the court, which is the highest plus minus of anybody on the Indiana Fever, and she was in for 22 seconds. 22 is kind of interesting. But the rotations in this game, I couldn't even keep up. The Mystics were rotating players in and out. The Indiana Fever were rotating players in and out. The difference being that the Mystics rotations, I think, were messing with the Indiana Fever, and the Indiana Fever rotations were more experiments. Now, Shakira Austin, she actually did great too. She has been riddled with injuries. Last season, she was out pretty much the entire season. The season before was her rookie year. So this is kind of she's not, I wouldn't call her very seasoned yet, but she came in and she dominated. What did she have? She came away with 13 points, being in for 14 minutes. Brittany Sykes was in for 33 minutes, and she came away with 21 points. Now, Brittany Sykes has been compared to SGA lately because everyone's been calling her a foul merchant. But in this game, oh, wow. Actually, yeah, She had 10 free throw attempts and she made 8. So 8 of her points came from the free throw line. Steph Dolson, she didn't really make a big impact. This was all about Kiki Uriafen and like how good she was in the paint. And I don't know, she just has such a high ceiling. And Sonia Citron, she was solid. She didn't play as well as Kiki Uriafen in this game, but she did come away with 13 points. Now, Sonia was in for 33 minutes, which is why I'm talking about Shakira Austin being so good, because she was in for 14 and she came away with 13 points. And I gotta give a nod to Lucy Olson, who was in for 6 minutes and made 6 points with 2 awesome 3-point shots. Aaliyah Edwards, I think she is like battling for her spot on the team, at least for her starting spot, because she didn't look as sharp as a lot of people have been projecting. I was projecting this would be like a breakout year for Aaliyah Edwards. She did go down with an injury, so there is a little bit of recovery time that comes with that. But she was in for 19 minutes and came away with 4 points. Nothing, to write home about. But, I thought that we'd see a lot more of like Caitlin Clark getting up and running plays. But, this is in season. Like she did that a lot in the preseason game. But I think she kind of knows like she needs to take a backseat to the actual coaching. But Stephanie White did mention in the post-game interview, she is going to be integrating Caitlin Clark a lot more, having her sit next to the coaches to understand like their schemes and the way they think, so that when she does go back out onto the floor, she has like a better understanding, at least from like where they're coming from, and she can incorporate that to what she does, because further knowledge of anything only helps her. But she did get up. She did come to Aaliyah Boston's defense when Aaliyah Boston was arguing with a ref about a call, and she walked out there and went to bat for her teammate. Overall, this was rough. The Indiana Fever are finding their identity. They have none right now. This is such a show of a short training camp preseason. And also, I don't care if you're a Caitlin Clark lover or you're a Caitlin Clark hater. Watching this game, you see the impact she has on a team that could be a contending team with her and is like, would make the playoffs without her. Now, all this being said, Washington is not an easy team to beat. They are scrappy. I think that they're a team, since a lot of them are so young, they do have a lot of like streakiness in them, but they have so much grit, so they can like battle it out and win a lot of games, but they can also make a lot of rookie mistakes and it could lose them games. But the Indiana Fever are going up against the Connecticut Sun next, and the Connecticut Sun, they're another team without any real identity. I think that they have a lot of good players, and I don't know when they're going to scrape out a win, but I just hope it's not against the Indiana Fever, hoping that the Indiana Fever have a much better chance against the Connecticut Sun. Then they go up against the Sky, and the Sky is just a train wreck this year. They did recently have a pretty good game against the Phoenix Mercury. They were up by over 10 points. They just kind of like lost it in the last half. They aren't able to like come home with the win, but that shouldn't be, a big obstacle for the Indiana Fever. Again, I really don't even know what anymore, because the Indiana Fever right now are very unpredictable. They're very unpredictable with like how they play together. It's very unpredictable about like what schemes Stephanie White is running. And I think the biggest thing was like that I did not understand. I understand her testing a lot of things out. I did not understand Sid Colson being on the floor for as long as she was. But if anything, this team is going to be watching a lot of film until they go up against the Connecticut Sun tomorrow, May 30th. Expect to see a lot of adjustments, and I know everyone is like super duper down on Coach White. There are a lot of questionable plays and coaching methods that she had instilled in this last game, but one thing I will say is that she does make adjustments. I have seen her make adjustments for things that aren't working, and this is the beginning of the season. There is a lot to be testing out, and the chemistry really isn't clicking as well for this team as like people would want it to be. So I anticipate a lot of adjustments. I do not anticipate Sid Colson to see that floor for more than 5 minutes tomorrow. And if she does, oh boy. But I am going to go live. Our live, my and Venom's live yesterday, ended up just being a lot of fun. We really talked to the people in the chat. At a certain point, there was no taking the game seriously. So we just had a lot of fun. So hop in the chat, hop in the live. It'll be a watch along, and I'll see you tomorrow.